In August 1590, an English ship reached a lonely island on the edge of the New World. The place was Roanoke Island, off the coast of present-day North Carolina. 3 years earlier, more than 100 English colonists had been left there. Men, women, children. Families who believed they were building the future of England in America. But when help finally returned, the settlement was silent. The houses were gone. The people had vanished. And carved into wood was one word that would haunt American history for more than 400 years. CROAAN. This is not a legend created for a movie. This really happened. This is the true story of the Lost Colony of Roanoke. And it remains one of the oldest and most haunting mysteries in American history. To understand Roanoke, we must go back to England in the late 16th century. At that time, England wanted power, wealth, land, and influence across the ocean. Spain had already built a powerful empire in the Americas. England wanted its own foothold in the New World. One of the men behind that dream was Sir Walter Raleigh. Raleigh received permission from Queen Elizabeth I to sponsor English attempts to colonize North America. The goal was ambitious: find land, build a settlement, create an English presence in the New World, and challenge Spain's growing power. The first major attempt came in 1585. An English group led by Ralph Lane established a settlement on Roanoke Island, but the situation quickly became difficult. The settlers struggled with food. They depended heavily on native communities. Relations became tense. Supplies from England were delayed, and by 1086 the first colony was abandoned. The settlers returned to England with Sir Francis Drake. But England did not give up. In 1587, a second group of colonists sailed across the Atlantic. This time, it was different. This was not only a military outpost. This group included families, women, children, people who planned to build permanent lives in America. Their governor was John White. John White was not only a governor. He was also an artist. His drawings of the people, land, and native communities of the region would later become some of the most important images from early English contact in North America. In 1587, White and the colonists arrived in the region known to the English as Virginia. Their intended destination was believed to be farther north, near the Chesapeake Bay. But instead, they ended up on Roanoke Island. Roanoke was not an easy place to survive. It was isolated. Supplies were limited. The colonists were surrounded by unfamiliar land, harsh weather, and complex relationships with native peoples. The colonists began trying to rebuild the settlement. They repaired structures. They searched for food. They tried to survive. But there was another problem. The previous English attempt had damaged relationships with some native groups in the region. The new colonists were entering a dangerous and delicate situation. Some native communities were friendly, others were hostile, and every decision mattered. Among the native groups connected to the story were the CROATOAN people. They lived on an island south of Roanoke, commonly associated with present-day Hatteras Island. The English knew the name CROATOAN. It was not a random word. It was a real place, a real people, and later, it would become the most important clue in the entire mystery. Then, on August 18, 1158, something historic happened. John White's daughter, Eleanor White Dare, gave birth to a baby girl. Her name was Virginia Dare. She is remembered as the first English child born to English parents in the New World. For the colonists, Virginia Dare represented hope. A child born in America. A sign that this was not just an expedition. This was meant to be a new beginning. But that hope would soon be tested. The colony needed supplies. Food was short. The settlement was vulnerable. And the colonists asked John White to return to England and bring back help. White did not want to leave. His daughter was there. His newborn granddaughter was there. His people were there. But the colony needed supplies, and someone had to go. So in late 1587, John White sailed back to England. He planned to return as quickly as possible. Before White left, he and the colonists made an agreement. If the colonists had to leave Roanoke, they would carve a message showing where they had gone. And if they were forced to leave because of danger or attack, they were supposed to carve a cross as a sign of distress. This detail is important because 3 years later, when White returned, he found a message, but he found no cross. White reached England, but history moved against him. In 1588, England faced the threat of the Spanish Armada. The conflict between England and Spain delayed White's return. Ships were needed for war. Resources were redirected. Plans collapsed, and the colonists on Roanoke Island waited. 1 year passed, then another, then another. Imagine Roanoke during those years. No supply ship, no certainty, no news from England. Families waiting on a dangerous coast. A settlement struggling between hunger, fear, weather, and survival. No one knows exactly what happened during those 3 years. That is where the mystery begins. Finally, in 1590, John White was able to return. He sailed back across the Atlantic with a rescue expedition. The journey was dangerous. Bad weather struck. The coast was treacherous. And during the landing near Roanoke, several sailors drowned. But White kept going. He had a daughter to find, a granddaughter to find, a colony to save. On August 18th, 1990, John White reached Roanoke Island. It was his granddaughter, Virginia Dare's 3rd birthday. 3 years earlier, he had left her as a newborn. Now he came back, hoping to find a child old enough to run into his arms. But Roanoke was silent. The men searched the area. They found no colonists, no families, no children, no bodies, no signs of a battle, no desperate message carved with a cross. The settlement had not simply been destroyed. It appeared to have been taken down. The houses had been dismantled. Items that could be carried had been removed. This suggested the colonists may have left deliberately. Then they saw the first clue. The letters C-R-O were carved into a tree. C-R-O, a partial message, a warning, a direction, a name. Then, near the entrance of the palisade, they found the full word, C-R-O-A-T-A-N. For John White, the word did not immediately mean horror. It may have meant hope. CROATOAN was the name of a nearby island and native community. White believed the colonists may have gone there. And because there was no carved cross, he did not believe they had been forced away by violence. But he never got the chance to confirm it. The weather turned dangerous. The ship lost an anchor. The sea became too rough. White wanted to go to CROATOAN to search for his family and the colonists, but the crew would not risk it. The expedition left. John White sailed away, and he never saw his daughter, his granddaughter, or the Roanoke colonists again. From that moment, the Lost Colony became one of America's greatest mysteries. What happened to them? Did they go to CROATOAN? Did they join native communities? Did they move inland? Did they starve? Were they killed? Were they absorbed into other groups and simply disappear from English records? The truth is still debated. Over the centuries, many theories have been suggested. One theory says the colonists moved south to live with the CROATOAN people on what is now Hatteras Island. This theory is supported by the fact that the carved word pointed directly to CROATOAN, and White himself believed it could be a sign of peaceful relocation. Another theory says some colonists may have moved inland. Archaeologists and historians have studied maps, artifacts, and possible settlement sites in North Carolina, including areas near Albemarle Sound. Some discoveries have suggested possible English presence away from Roanoke, but no final answer has closed the case completely. There are also darker theories. Some believe the colonists may have died from starvation or disease. Some believe they may have been attacked. Others believe they separated into smaller groups and tried to survive wherever they could. The problem is not that there are no clues. The problem is that the clues are incomplete, and history does not always leave a clean ending. The word CROATO, O-A-N-A, has often been treated like a ghostly message, but in reality, it may have been practical. It may have been the colonists doing exactly what they had agreed to do: leave a message, tell John White where they had gone. But because White could not follow them, the message became a mystery, a clue without an answer, a direction no one took in time. What makes Roanoke so powerful is not only that people disappeared, it is who disappeared. Among them was Eleanor White Dare, John White's daughter. Among them was Virginia Dare, his granddaughter, born on August 18th, 1587. The first English child born in the New World vanished before her third birthday could be celebrated with her grandfather. Virginia Dare became a symbol, a child of hope, a child of mystery, a child whose life disappeared into the silence between written records and lost memory. And that is why Roanoke still captures the imagination, because it is not just a missing colony, it is a missing future. Today, Roanoke Island is part of present-day North Carolina. The story is remembered at Fort Raleigh National Historic Site, near Manteo, North Carolina. Visitors come to the Outer Banks and stand near the place where English colonists once tried to build a permanent home. They look at the land, the trees, the water, and they ask the same question John White asked in 1590. Where did they go? The honest answer is this: we do not know with certainty, but the strongest clue was left in wood. CROAAN. Not a scream, not a warning, not a curse. A name, a direction, possibly a final message from people trying to survive. Maybe the colonists joined the CROATOAN people. Maybe some moved inland. Maybe they split apart. Maybe their descendants lived on, remembered by another name. Or maybe the truth was buried by weather, time, and silence. But one thing is clear. In 1887, a group of English families tried to build a new life on Roanoke Island. In 1590, they were gone. And for more than 4 centuries, America has been trying to understand why. History is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it leaves behind only a word carved into wood. Sometimes an entire community disappears, and all we can do is follow the evidence as far as it will take us. The Lost Colony of Roanoke is not only a mystery about disappearance, it is a reminder of how fragile survival was in the early years of European colonization. It is a reminder that behind every historical mystery were real human beings: parents, children, workers, dreamers, people who crossed an ocean believing they were beginning something permanent. And then they became the first great missing chapter in American history. The colony that vanished, the word that remained, the mystery that refused to die. Thank you for watching this Forgotten Files documentary. With the help of artificial intelligence, we are bringing history back to life through powerful visuals, cinematic storytelling, and real events that shaped the world. If this story made you think, feel, or question what you thought you knew, please subscribe, follow our channel, like this video, and share it with someone who loves history. Your support is how Forgotten Files grows. And the more you support us, the more forgotten stories we can uncover and bring to life. This is Forgotten Files, where history speaks again.